Hello everyone, it's Jennifer McGuire and I'm proud to be part of the Simon Says Stamp Summer School. Today I wanted to show you some tricks for doing stamping and die cutting together. We're going to create this card which combines Simon Says Stamp products with some products from My Favorite Things. A lot of companies are offering clear stamps with matching dies, so I thought I'd show you some tricks to how to use them together. There are two different ways that you can do it, and the first I wanted to show you is to first stamp and then die cut. This is probably not used as frequently as the other, but I find sometimes this gives me better results, and so it is sometimes worth the effort so that you get a nice even trim around your stamped image. So this is a stamp set from My Favorite Things. It's these gorgeous poppies, and I'm going to stamp them on white cardstock using some Memento ink. This is a great dye ink. It gives you nice vibrant images every time. Now you'll notice that I'm actually stamping way more flowers than I need, but I'm going to go ahead and do it since I have all the supplies out, and I'll save the extra pieces for a future card. Now for the leaves, I'm going to first stamp them or ink them up with the light green ink and then just do the bases of the leaves with a dark green ink so I can have a little dimension to it by adding that shading. I think little touches like this can make a big difference on a card. Now here are the matching dies for that My Favorite Things stamp set. Now you'll see they're connected with these little metal pieces in between, and this is common for the dies. You can keep them connected so you don't lose them, or you can break them apart so that you can do different things with them. I always break them apart since I'm going to keep them in a sleeve together. Now I have this piece of transparency. It's actually just some recycled transparency from some packaging. I like to keep those for uses like this. And this is just some sticky tape. You could use washi tape. And I'm just going to put all the dies onto this transparency. We're actually going to create a guide for our dies over our stamp set. So I'm just going to take off the pieces, and I'm actually going to keep the negative space of this. Now this is a piece that I'm going to just keep in with my dies for future cards. So I'll use it here, and then I'll have it ready to go anytime I use this stamp and die set. So you only have to do this process once. Now here's how you can do the stamping first and then the die cutting. Watch as I line up the transparent window with the flower, and then I'm going to take the die and line it right up on top of it. And it'll fit right in there, nice and snug. Now I'm going to hold the die in place and remove the transparency. You'll notice I put a slit from the edge of the transparency to the flower, and that's so it makes it easier to take it off. So now my die is perfectly positioned over the stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again here. Cut these little slits which will help remove the transparency. Got a little piece of sticky tape ready. Washi tape would work for this. Any kind of tape would. Going to line up the transparency so I get a nice even white trim around the stamped image. Going to take the die, put it right on top. It'll fit nice and snug. It'll just kind of fit in place like a puzzle. And I'm going to remove the transparency while keeping the die in place and then put some tape on top. So this takes a little more effort than doing the die cutting first, but sometimes I find this gives me better results. If you have trouble seeing through the clear stamp because maybe it's inked up or whatever, this is a great technique to know. And again, you can keep this transparent piece for future stamping and die cutting. So really it doesn't take that much time except for the first time you use them. And here you can see the nice white even trim that you get around the stamped images. So next I wanted to show you the other way, the more obvious way to use these stamp and dies together is to first die cut and then stamp. I think that's one of the great advantages of using clear stamps is that you can see right through and make sure that you get good placement on the die cut. So I went ahead and die cut a bunch of the shapes from white cardstock, and now I'm just going to stamp directly on them. Now my head's going to get in the way here because the trick is to make sure you look directly down through the stamp set so you can see exactly where it's going to be positioned. And this works most of the time for me, but I think it's good to have that other option in case this is something that you have a hard time with. Sorry, I didn't ink that one up really well there, but I didn't ink the stamp up really well, but you can get an idea of how easy it is to stamp the clear stamp onto the die cuts. Now for the stems, I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to ink it up with a light ink and then also a little bit of dark ink so that I have that little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to cut these out by hand because they don't have a die for the stems themselves. Next, I wanted to show you how to create this window background here, the 6 circles. This is actually cut from some wood paper. And you can see I've raised it up to give it a little bit of dimension. Now this is really easy to do. I've used some of the Simon Says Stamp wood paper. This comes in lots of different shades of wood. I happen to use the cherry here, which really isn't that dark. I've used a 3-circle window die from Simon Says Stamp, and it's these 3 circles that are evenly spaced and connected, so it makes it really easy to create these little windows without having to measure. I'm going to die cut it twice by taping the die to the back of the wood paper so I don't leave any marks on the front of the wood paper. And also I get these great little circle wood pieces that I can use for another project. So you can see how easy that 3-circle die is for creating cards quickly. And also they have a rounded square, so you could use that option also. I wanted to have some subtle stamping peeking out from these windows, so I'm using a Hero Arts Soft Granite, which is a really soft gray ink with this My Favorite Things border stamp. Now you'll notice it's hanging off the edge of the block. That's okay because I don't need the whole length of it. I just need enough to cover the front of this card. You can see how easy it is to stamp this repeatedly to cover a whole background. Since it's clear, it's really easy to line it up, and I find that starting on the bottom and then working my way up to cover the card helps in lining up. Then I'm going to use some foam dots to put the wood paper on top of this. I think putting it on with foam dots adds a little shadow behind the windows that really makes a big difference. Now it's time to add the flowers to the windows, and you can see I kind of position them so they look like they're coming out of the windows. To do this, I used a combination of regular adhesive, which is the Tombow stamp runner, and also some foam dots to add a little dimension. And then I went ahead and tucked some of the pieces into the windows so that they peek through. I wanted the poppy on the top to be tall, but the stem isn't long enough, so I'm going to actually cheat here. You'll see I'm going to take my scissors and trim off behind the window so it's hidden. And I'm going to take another stem that I've cut and glue it below it so it looks like that's one big continuous piece. That's one of the fun advantages of having this kind of come out of these windows. So there I completely faked it and made a super long stem for that tall poppy. I also used some dimensional adhesive to add some of the leaves and these little pods. So there you have the little flowers coming out of the windows. Now I wanted to add something to the center of these poppies. I felt like it needed a little something. So one of my favorite things to do for the center of flowers is to just tap with a marker tip. I'm using Copics, but you could use any kind of markers for this. And I'm just adding little dots of various colors of brown and gold or yellow. I think this is a great way to kind of give the look of the center of a flower and make it look a little realistic. Sorry, I have the wrong cap on that Copic marker. I think my kids have been playing with this set. So after I've done this, I decided I wanted to add a little white back into it just for a little pop of color. So I'm using a little pop of highlighting. So I'm using my white Signo Uniball pen to add little touches too. Now I needed to stamp a greeting, so in this open window on the bottom, I'm going to use a Simon Says stamp here, the hello, with a Hero Arts Cup of Joe dark brown to match the center of the flowers. Now I love these baby boy pearls from Doodlebug because they're great kind of deep colors that you don't often see. And I'm just going to scatter these along a card. People often ask how I position my pearls. I usually put two close together like those two I just did and then put them in a triangle arrangement. So I have a cluster on the bottom right and I have a couple on the up on the top, and then I'm putting some over on the left. So I have kind of a visual triangle. So there you have a fun way to combine My Favorite Things stamps and dies with some Simon Says Stamp products. If you have any questions, please head over to the Simon Says Stamp blog. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.